At the centre of the Somerset floods, the Environment Agency has not dredged the rivers in nearly 20 years and yet says tonight it would be right to do so now. The army has been called in but as yet is not in action. The local MP is furious at a crisis which has now dominated life on the Somerset Levels for over a month. And the forecasters have more rain in store on their weather maps and a severe tidal surge to make matters worse. Tonight, the latest. Also tonight, confusion in the Commons. The Tory party splits over a backbench immigration amendment as the coalition's remaining bill limps on through the parliamentary process. Plus, if it was all right for Brits to assist in the Spanish Civil War, why the sensitivity when young Muslims are moved by their own consciences to travel to Syria?
You wouldn't be human if you didn't feel it. So they do feel anger and they do feel frustrated with what's going on. But also the international. And
an Italian court is due to rule any moment now in the latest stage in the Amanda Knox legal saga. And ice, crystal meth, tick.
Call it what you will, it's creating a looming health emergency for gay men. Use of crystal meth is rising in the gay community, and with it needle sharing and a surge in HIV infections. And
like most actors, my real job is saving the world. Start with plain water.
The SodaStream controversy continues to bubble as Scarlett Johansson bows out of her role as an Oxfam ambassador to continue advertising for a company which operates on land regarded as illegally occupied under international law.
Gales, tidal waves could cause more flood misery this weekend, the Environment Agency has warned, capping a month that's already been in many areas the wettest January for 100 years or more. It's been so bad in Somerset that the army are now poised to help people left cut off for weeks. The government's emergency response committee met again today as ministers were accused of dithering in the face of a major flooding incident. In a moment, we'll be asking whether more could have been done to ease the pressure on floodplains. First, though, Jane Dodge is in one of the worst hit areas. Jane.
Well, John, there's been one piece of good news for the people of the Somerset Levels today. It hasn't rained. Spirits have also been lifted by the fact that this flooding, which is a month old now, is finally getting national attention, highlighted by the fact that David Cameron has himself said that he'll rule nothing out in trying to bring some help to those people affected. The army remains on standby tonight. The County Council for now has decided it will continue to use the emergency services on the ground. And for the second time in 2 days, COBRA, the government's emergency committee, is meeting tonight to decide how best to help those thousands of people whose lives continue to be affected by these floods.
We were told the cavalry were coming, and they came, all two of them. Their mission, unclear, their timing, some argued, a little late.
I mean, at the moment, physically on the ground, it's literally just the two of us at the moment. Like I said, we only received the task in late last night, and then a number of options are being looked at with specifically troops in the local area, and it very much depends on what we're asked to do.
As it turned out, the local authority decided the army weren't needed for now. For those living here, what was once a novel way to travel is starting to wear a little thin.
For the last 4 weeks, this has been the only way in and out of Mucheney. Now, finally, there's good news for the local residents here. A personal commitment from the Prime Minister, David Cameron, that dredging of the two rivers causing the flooding will now take place. That's for the future, but in the short term, more bad weather is forecast.
People in Somerset had felt abandoned. There was disappointment that when a minister, Owen Paterson, finally came to see for himself on Monday, nothing seemed to happen. David Cameron's intervention yesterday came as a big surprise to local politicians.
Owen Paterson got heckled, didn't he, on Monday? Do you think that focused minds in the government that some sort of action was needed and needed now?
I'm sure it did, and I'm sure it's part of the lobbying and the information that we've been taking back to government for such a long time. I'm sure that had an impact. I'm sure it was taken note of.
Why has it taken so long?
Well, a very good question, and some people I'm sure would say that if we were living in Surrey rather than Somerset, it would have got through rather more quickly.
Back in Muchelney, the only way to the next village of Thorney is in a taxi run by volunteers from a charity. Carolyn Roache runs a bed and breakfast business here. She wasn't flooded, but she's now looking after 13 people who were. What should have been done then, as far as you're concerned, and by who?
The Environment Agency should have been dredging the rivers, looking after the river banks, maintaining sluice gates, and all of that work that the drainage boards and the Rivers Authority used to do.
Rod McDonagh is one of the 13 people now living here. Him and his wife and 2 young children had only been in their home for 6 weeks before they were flooded.
We tried to reduce the sort of panic effect, especially in front of the children. But it's upsetting, it's slightly traumatising. I mean, the children seemed fine, but then the first night here, we left them playing in the living room and they used the cushions from the sofas to build a flood defence in the living room door frame. So clearly, you know, they're 4 and 2, so they're not too young, but it's had an impact.
25 square miles of the Somerset Levels are still underwater. For one man who used to drain the rivers here, David Cameron's commitment to dredging in the future has come far too late.
I think that the mentality of some of these people that sit in cities that probably see the odd river now and again is not quite the same as those people that are out here and amongst it all the time.
Dredging won't start until the water levels here have fallen. With more rain forecast over the weekend, that's unlikely to be any time soon. Jane Dodge, Channel 4 News, Somerset.
And we're joined now from Boroughbridge by Bryony Sadler from the Flooding on the Somerset Levels Action Group, or FLAG. Bryony Sadler, when we talked to you on Monday, you were furious at the lack of action from, it seemed, really anybody. Can you tell us, it now being Thursday, have things improved?
I think furious is a little bit outrageous. We weren't furious. We're not angry of Somerset.com. We just would like somebody to have listened to us a lot earlier. This could have been prevented. We were on the phone from the 18th of December asking for pumps to be put in because of the rainfall that we had so late on, but there was so much of it.
Can you give us a sense of how many people are affected and what the effects are? We know about the 13 people, for example, who got moved into the house we were looking at just now, but give me a sort of sense of what it's like there.
I'm from Moorland, and the whole of Moorland, one route out of the village is totally cut off and will be for, I should think, 3 weeks, even with this extra pumping. It's very, 8-10 foot underwater, the road. And at the other end of the village, where the flood has spread because of how long it's been here, there is an enormous puddle. So you can only drive in and out of the village if you have a 4x4. Well, everybody's life is impacted.
I sort of perhaps pushed it a bit when I said you were furious, but you're certainly not happy. And I'm wondering who you point the finger at. Is it central government? Is it the local authority? Or is it the Environment Agency? Who do you think is the villain in this piece?
I just think it's all misinformation and mismanagement. There's nobody, one person to blame for this. And going forward, this is a group thing. We've all got to work together, but people have got to learn to listen to the people on the ground who have been here for years and years and take what they're saying, because that's the lie of the land. That's how it works. They need to approach people on the ground to do the background work before they do the progressive work further on in the future.
And what's your feeling about the army coming in? Do you feel they can make a difference?
We've had the fire brigade in today. They have done amazingly well. We've got 3 more pumps running and put in different places other than just on top of all the Environment Agency pumps. So, that's really helping. I hear that the army are on standby. I haven't heard that they're coming. But I guess that's at the weekend when obviously we're now facing more rain and high tides, which will cause more problems. So yeah, it's a relief, but we're not out of the woods yet by a long way.
Bryony Sadler, fingers crossed for you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, so why are the Somerset Levels still underwater, and can anything be done to prevent this sort of prolonged flooding in the future? We're joined now by our weather presenter, Liam Dutton. Liam, why? What's the problem?
Well, effectively, John, we've been having never-ending flooding here for what seems like, well, it's practically a month now. There's been still villages cut off by floodwater. It's been a really bad situation. Some places are only accessible by boat. But as unbelievable as this situation might seem, the UK is no stranger to severe flooding, and a look back through history shows that such catastrophes have happened before.
This was the lovely North Devon holiday resort of Lynmouth before disaster swept down upon the village following a cloudburst in the Exmoor Hills. Under the sudden influx of torrential rain, the West Lynn River, which normally flows quietly through Lynmouth to the sea, changed its course, ploughing a path of destruction through the sleeping valley.
Well, Liam, when I was a child, I went to Lynmouth very soon after the floods, and the topography was obvious. It came charging down the valley, very tight valley, and smashed up the houses at the bottom. But the topography there in the Somerset Levels is very different.
It is, and there's also there's three factors in total that are influencing the floods. You've got the weather, of course, then you've got the topography, as you mentioned, and also how the land is managed. Now, I'm going to deal with the weather first of all, because it's been very wet this winter, and in December 2013, at the end of last year, the UK had 54% more rainfall than it should normally have. Now, that's, of course, continued through January. This month, we've had a rainfall 35% above average, but the real interest is in the local detail, because for south east and central southern England, there's been more than double the usual rainfall. It's been the wettest January these places have ever seen.
We've been talking loosely about the weathermen talking about more rain, and particularly this tidal surge.
Yeah, but going back to the topography, John, I want to mention a bit more about that first of all. We've got this map here, which effectively shows the Somerset Levels. So you've got the Quantock Hills to the west, the Mendip Hills to the east, and in between, you've got this huge low-lying floodplain that has a number of rivers carrying water out into the channel. And what happens is the water slides down the hills when it rains, and it's that combined with the high river levels and saturated ground that causes those problems. Now, another point that I want to make is I spoke to a lady today, an expert, Dr. Hannah Cloak from the University of Reading, who deals with extreme rainfall and flood management. And she wanted to make the point that even if the rivers had been dredged, it's still a case that the flooding would have happened. And she made the point that looking back in previous decades that we've built a lot of properties on floodplains, and that just puts people in harm's way. And she was keen to stress that it's important to learn from what happened in the past and plan in the future so the same thing doesn't happen again.
So this tidal surge and all this rain?
It's not looking great. Low pressure arrives tonight into tomorrow. So that means for Friday it's going to be a wet day, heavy rain. There'll be more flooding with the ground saturated and river levels high. Then the rain goes, and then on Saturday it's the strong winds that are an issue. You've got the high winds combined with high tides pushing water towards the coast, and that's where the coastal flooding and tidal surge comes into play this weekend.
Liam Hannigan. Well, we did invite a minister from DEFRA to appear on the programme tonight, but no one was available. Liam will have a full weather forecast at the end of this programme. Kathy.
Thanks, John. Now, it's a policy he claims is top of